April 28th. This is the meeting of the Harbor Plan Update Committee, Monday, April 28th, 2025. At 1:21. Present are Peter. If I call your name, tell me you can hear me. We'll establish the quorum. Peter,
I can hear you.
good. Phil,
Here.
Emily,
Here.
Rachel.
Here.
Okay, staff is Jeff,
I'm here.
Jack,
Here.
Kristen,
Here.
Kim.
Here.
And is that it? Okay. All right, so somebody want to make a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Peter,
Second.
Phil? All those in favor, Peter,
Aye.
Phil,
Aye.
Emily,
Aye.
Rachel?
Aye.
Okay, myself. Okay, welcome. We did that. Approval of the agenda. We did that. To be determined on the minutes, Jeff?
Nope.
I didn't
No
think so.
minutes.
I didn't see him. Okay, review recommendations for the plan, as many as we can get through. Commercial waterfronts is where we ended up. Go for it, guys.
So we're now on objective number 3, recommendation number 1.
Okay.
Yes. I can share my screen. Okay. So 1 through 4 I have here that Phil would like to discuss. Phil, did you have thoughts on all right, so it looks like maybe you already went through it.
We did. We're now
Yeah.
on to we're now on objective 3. And objective 3 only has 1 recommendation.
Oh, hold on, I might be on the wrong objective 3.
Explore additional ways to provide marine.
Which page is it?
Well,
35.
That's
Okay.
tricky. But it's commercial waterfronts, objective number 3.
Okay. I'm on the right spot now.
Has to do with marine fuel.
Yep, okay. So I have that Phil would like to discuss.
I don't have anything for that.
Which one are we on? I'm gonna find it on my drive.
Objective number 3.
Yeah, but is it commercial recreational?
Commercial
fishing?
waterfronts.
Page 35.
Well, don't bother with that.
No, it's on my page 32, so. Page number is not gonna work.
No, I'm just trying to find it. Commercial waterfronts, where we are?
Yep,
Okay, we're on which one?
3, objective 3. Recommendation 1, and there's only 1 recommendation for objective 3. This has to do with marine fuel for commercial vessels.
Yeah. Oh. Whose bullets are these?
I mean, this was, I remember at the
Yeah.
Nantucket Hotel, this was a big
It's a
deal.
big deal. They're going over to the Cape to get gas.
Yeah, so I
Mm.
think we need to pay real attention to this one.
How do you want to phrase this then?
Is it not phrased in a way that works for you?
Well, I
The
think
word
we
explore.
approved the wording of the objective. Now we're just, the recommendation is asking the town to explore 3 bullet points.
Yep.
I'm still having a problem with the word explore. Considering how impactful this thing is to everybody here on the water. And they can explore all they want. That doesn't mean they're gonna do a damn thing about it.
That's a fair point. Yeah.
So I'm not happy with the word explore ever in this thing.
It
Yeah.
says the town should determine the best way to provide fuel for an alternative
Yeah.
fuel.
Because
Yep.
that's an edict.
Yep. Because people were pretty upset about this.
Yeah, and I still get this. So I just don't want to leave it so
So,
loosey-goosey.
well,
with
if we can-
explore.
if you guys can, I don't think we should sit here wordsmithing.
No,
all
but I
that.
like what you said,
We can do it.
Okay.
should or shall and.
Whatever.
or Whatever, but to count.
I have a comment on the last bullet having to do with the Great Harbor Yacht Club. I know that they don't do it. I know that it was in their license to do it. I'm going to guess something has happened with the town that allows them not to do it.
I haven't
Or-
seen anything, when I was on the planning board when this started, I haven't seen anything come through the planning board, not that it didn't sneak by, that absolves them of having to do that.
Okay.
I can check.
I think it may have been an amendment to their chapter 91 license, which doesn't require a lot of
No,
public notice,
Hmm.
but they
Uh.
also. A lot of times I don't find that people record those modifications to those licenses. So that may take some digging into. I've been looking at this in this last week. But that may have occurred, and that may be what granted them that release.
is there
Okay,
anyone you can call DEP or somebody and find out?
Yeah, I can kind of follow up with waterways. But.
Yep.
They're not always the most responsible.
I couldn't find an amendment. That doesn't mean that one doesn't exist, but if it isn't filed with the land records, then it's not valid anymore. They have a certain amount of time to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll check with the planning board to
Well-
see if anything happened there, because I know we required it in their decision.
Well, this is gonna really require some work before a public meeting, because.
This is gonna come up again and again and
you know,
again.
Right,
Oh.
we don't want to say in here, if the yacht club has been absolved of that requirement, I don't think we probably want to bring it up here. So if we could find out something before we go public with it, it'd probably be,
I also don't mind asking, I can ask the. ED there.
Okay.
What's going on, maybe he'll answer.
Okay.
Yeah, I was just gonna ask if it would be worthwhile to actually reach out to Great Harbor, because they might be able to give you a straight answer without having to dig around and look through all the agencies and permits. They might just know and be able to tell us.
Well, I've got somebody's cell phone over there, but I'll try to find out.
I can get a hold of, like I said, I can get a hold of Stephen Crease pretty easily.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
I think Rachel has her hand up here.
Yeah.
Rachel?
Yeah, so I mean, I think one of my concerns with this, and this is obviously hearsay, because again, sort of what we're talking about is getting a straight answer. My concern with this is that my understanding is that it's one of those things where, you know, it may just always be broken. So so say we get a straight answer that says, yes, it's gonna work and this is gonna go forward, and then it just kind of doesn't happen. Is there, I mean, I think, is it worth including duplication so that you're not completely reliant on one system in this document?
What do you mean by that?
Well, anything that Grape Harbor is beholden to do, that's worth thinking through what the very option is. So that if their lift is broken, their travel lift is broken, right? That should we be exploring other options? Because this has been going on for an extended period of time, this discussion.
What do you mean by other options? With Great Harbor or someplace else?
Someplace else, I think is what she's saying.
Was
Yeah.
I also put a travel lift on that waterfront?
Yeah, we have some
Okay.
thoughts on, maybe something at the town pier or a different location, or a way to fuel vessels from a truck at an existing waterfront facility, and we can add more in there if there are other ideas.
Well, that refueling from a truck was brought up when Great Harbor came to the planning board. And that was wholly unsafe. And really, there could be a lot of problems with spillage and everything else. So that was jettisoned pretty quickly.
Okay, should I remove that then?
well, I remember a discussion at Mattakit when somebody was doing it down there, and I think it wasn't really very well monitored. But
No.
other towns on the Cape do use fuel trucks at the waterfront.
They may have a different setup, a more formal setup, instead of like the town landing in Mattakit or some other thing where you
Yeah,
could leak into the wetlands, which would be a very dim view from the Concom.
yeah, no, I agree. I agree.
Because after the removal of the pipeline
Yeah,
that was next to Great Harbor
Great Harbor.
Yacht Club, or the boatyard, where supposedly
elevated.
a ship could come in.
Yeah.
And pipe the petroleum products onto land after the removal of all that, and I think everyone was all done with,
Pipes.
transporting fuel over wetlands and.
Yeah.
But I think we should just keep an open mind. You never know where we'll be able to be, to provide fuel. And maybe it'll come around again when it can be at the town pier. It can always,
For children's.
yeah. But it doesn't matter where we put it, it's the cost of it. People aren't gonna go to one place over the other unless the price is gonna be better than going to the mainland.
Yeah. So the only open question here under this section is what's the status of the Great Harbor Yacht Club?
Yeah, I think they called Stephen Freeze and just clear that up right away.
Yeah.
He's very forthcoming.
Excellent.
Unless it was done before he ever got there.
He'll know, he's the general manager.
Okay, anything else?
Okay.
Nancy?
Moving on to objective 4. I have Phil wants to discuss this one.
No, I just had the first 4 recommendations on objective 1, so I don't,
Okay. Well, anybody else, objective 4, recommendation 1, or we can move on to objective 5.
Let's move on.
Okay. So if Phil, I had you had something for recommendation 1 under objective 5, but if not, we can move on to
No,
the next one.
I don't.
Okay. All right. I'll move on to goal 2, objective 1. So I have Phil for a lot of these. Maybe it's not accurate. But goal 2, objective 1, recommendations 1 and 2. Nobody else commented that they wanted to look at these. Any comments, or I can just move on? Okay.
Well, that would be Dave Franzuto's West Jetty Terminal, right?
Sounds up for me?
With the fuel dock and travel lift?
No,
Well, goal 2 is improve landside transportation accessibility and circulation around the ferry terminals to provide for safe and efficient movement of vehicles and pedestrians. Well, planning board and everybody else in the world is on this, so I don't know what we're gonna add to it, but anyway.
zoning, you should put the zoning board down there.
Okay.
Yeah, the difficulty on this one was that there's nothing on the steamship authorities that annual reports or meetings meeting agendas that they had that they're talking about this, about the redevelopment of the Nantucket terminal. They're tied up with Woods Hole at the moment, which didn't go very well. And so what this is really suggesting is that as you get engaged in that process, and I'm sure that that your port representative or whatever is going to be involved in this, but it's important for the community to get involved in the planning for the Steamship Authority's terminal for a variety of reasons to make sure that it comes out the way the town wants it to come out. I'm seems certain that the process would include the town, but it should also include the surrounding property owners, both public and private, because that's going to be if you're ever going to be able to do, that intermodal transportation center, everybody's got to be involved at the time the terminal planning is being done, because it's going to have an impact on all of those other properties as well. And that's really your opportunity to maybe to trigger some private investment as well.
The intermodal thing was planned for Wilkes Square.
Right.
not the steamship.
Yeah, but I'm thinking that sort of that whole area probably needs some attention, and the attention should be a coordinated one.
Well, I mean, for starters, Nat Lowell is on the planning board, and Nat Lowell is the representative of what is it, it's the, what is it?
The Port Council of the Steamship Authority.
The Port Council,
The
right.
board of governors.
And
Because Rob Ranning is.
And Rob Branding, well, that's a separate thing, but anyhow, the point is that this whole discussion of what used to be Schooner's Restaurant is now gonna be a new restaurant on the corner there of Easy
He
Street
thinks it's gonna be a
and
restaurant.
Broad Street, which is exactly that, so it's all very much in discussion, so I think we just leave it there, but know that we don't need to get anybody's attention on this because it's already there.
Well, should you put down waterfront in here and not just specify steamship? Because it's all integrated down there, the parking, quote unquote, parking garage. Anything else that's gonna take place down there? On the waterfront. It's not just the steamship, it's how do you get to the steamship? Where do you
Right.
park? The buses, where's the NRTA gonna go? Where's this, where's that?
I think it's fine. It says around the ferry.
I think it's fine. I don't think we need to get into,
More specifics
yeah, I really don't.
or more inclusive language?
This is one that is. We don't need to remind anybody to pay attention to this.
Okay. All right, so maybe assume that is all okay.
Mhm.
Yeah,
All right. Moving on to boating and navigation, 2.6. So Phil, I think I had you for a lot of these. Emily also would
Well,
like to
this is-
discuss this one.
Well, the one item having to do with goal number one, objective number one, recommendation number one is. I think that, the contract, to the extent there is a contract with Nantucket Moorings, with the town, should be reviewed. Because they're the ones that control all the moorings. And they have an agreement with the town. I don't know what the terms are. I think it should be a public document, but I don't know. I've never seen this come up for a review, but I think that the fact of the matter is it appears that Nantucket Moorings has total independence as to how they manage this and what they charge. And I think the representatives of the town ought to have an opportunity to look into that.
Well, Sheila said that she is gonna control that stuff.
No, she's not. It's Nantucket Moorings.
Yeah, but she knows where people are supposed to go and how far they're supposed to go and all that.
Well,
other
I'm
stuff. She
talking,
manages that.
well, I'm talking about the terms of the agreement, the fact that agreement should be in the public domain.
Well, it has to be legally.
Well,
Has anybody asked for it?
I think that should be part of what recommendation number one is.
Because it's not a free-for-all out there. She still.
Well, I mean, I'll just, the fact of the matter is Nantucket Moorings used to charge a seasonal rate for the entire season for a mooring.
Right,
They have changed it now, so it's every night, a nightly rate. And now they've changed the basis on how they determine the nightly rate by saying it is demand, based on demand.
so there's no fixed rate?
No, it's
That-
based on
that's not
demand.
Right,
So this all needs to be reviewed. They said in their website, they changed the wording in the website this year. And they said that, yeah, like hotels and car rental agencies, it depends on demand.
that's wrong.
Well, that's why I think that agreement ought to be reviewed.
That's a Sheila question.
Well, no, it's not. This is Nantucket Moorings has the concession.
Wow. Comments, anybody? Peter?
well, I mean, they have the concession and it's how they've determined. Seems like the market has made them do that. right?
Well, I think that should, but I would think that the agreement, the
Should be
town
a
puts
fixed
it out
rate.
for bid every, I don't know how many years. I mean, essentially, Nantucket Moorings took it over from Dennis Metcalf.
Right,
And I don't, but essentially, I think it's something that comes up. I gotta
Periodic.
believe if it's a concession, it's like the Jetties Beach, you know, the beach, the concession. I think
Yeah.
it comes up from time to time for bid.
So maybe I mean, it's like the sandbar.
What are the term, what does the town, I mean, the town has got to have some sort of guidelines as to what the basis is of this concession.
But can you make the changes now while they have the concession?
Well, I don't think you can, but I think you ought to be able to look at,
So maybe
And-
the language says something about when
notification.
it comes up,
yeah,
we look at this.
yeah.
We look at this because you can't go to the sandbar now and say, you know, I don't
No.
like the way you cook your.
No, I'm
onion
not
rings,"
suggesting that. I'm just saying
Yeah.
that this is something, this is a concession. I believe it's a concession.
Yeah.
That ought to be, reviewed like all this other stuff.
They have modified existing contracts with
Well, that's-
concessionaires on
Yeah,
other
I'm
things,
not
including the
suggesting that.
jetties.
But I'm just suggesting that this is a town concession. That it is, if it's a concession, it comes up every periodically. I don't know how frequently it does, but I would think the town has certain guidelines as to what can be charged or what, you know, what's available, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay,
So just to circle back, what do you think I should write on this?
yeah, how do you want to proceed on this?
I'm upset. Beyond that. I don't know, Kim. I think that
Demand, geez.
part of this includes, one of the things is a review of how the mooring concession is overseen by the town.
Review contracts.
Well, first, before we write anything in there,
Why don't we
that might be
find
redundant, there might be a way that it's done that we don't know about.
it? Right,
That's why, you know, it'd probably be a good idea to have Sheila explain it to us.
Yeah.
And so we can put this aside until she's here
Mhm.
and ask her the question, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So we don't all get all hot under the collar. And put something in that was a waste when Sheila could say, oh, it's handled like this.
yeah, that's what I'm saying, we gotta ask her.
Looks like Kristen has her hand up.
I have no problem with the conversation. I just want to flag that this recommendation is about carrying capacity, which I think is slightly different. So we may just look to see if this recommendation actually belongs somewhere else in the plan. I don't want to lose it, but I'm just flagging that it might not be here.
But maybe we should flag all the places where we need her
Yeah.
advice, and then whoever, you know, Jeff or you guys reach out to her and say, hey, we need you at the next meeting for these things. So she's prepared.
Yeah.
And
I see Rachel has her hand up.
Yep, go for it.
Thank you. Doesn't the Army, Jeff, correct me if I'm wrong, but doesn't the Army Corps determine how many moorings are allowed?
that's a fixed number. That
The
is,
fixed number.
that is fixed.
Right, and is that based on carrying capacity? Like
We
some
asked her that,
capacity?
when Sheila was here, we asked her these
we-
questions about that.
As I understand, when we asked about it, we are told that we
There's a
are
number.
at capacity based on what the Army Corps of Engineers says.
And that's a fixed number.
Right, so I guess that's what I was wondering. So if we're talking about carrying capacity, and it's a fixed number. Okay, that's what I just wanted to.
that's why she's putting more and more people out
on the water,
offshore, the bigger yachts.
Out of the harbor.
Okay. Anything else on this? I know Emily, you had mentioned you had a comment.
Yeah, I had a couple of other thoughts when I was reading this. In addition to the carrying capacity, I wondered if it would make sense to also seek like an annual accounting of how many vessels are actually using the harbors. Because I don't know if that's something, and it may not be possible to get an exact number, but there might be a way to estimate that so that we can kind of keep track of how that changes over time, like in addition to the moorings and slips.
Mhm.
So maybe
And then-
Emily, you might track that through the mooring companies. And we would wanna know how many people just keep their boat on their mooring all summer long, how many people, how often someone who has the valet service has their boat put in the water. Some stuff like that, all of the data.
Yeah, because there are, I'm sure, are also some transient folks who come and go who maybe anchor or, but yeah, just a thought to add to the carrying capacity since we're talking about number of boats here. And then the other one, which would probably be a separate recommendation, and I'm not sure exactly where to put this, but I don't remember seeing it elsewhere, would be about recommending a regulatory requirement for the use of dye tabs. I know we've been working with Sheila and they've been giving them to vessels and basically just asking them to use them, but it's not a requirement at this point in time. And I think there are some other communities, maybe on the Cape, who do require them, or at least they have a bylaw that says the harbor master has the right to require them. So I don't know if that's something we want to consider as a recommendation as well.
Well, we talked about making that
Well,
requirement.
The problem is we asked that question and we were told when Sheila was here that they do hand out dye tabs
And here's the
when the boat comes
regulation.
in and,
They do, but it's just a matter of whether, I mean, then they can decide whether to use them or not. It's not.
well,
Not really.
I'm out on the water virtually every day.
Yeah,
And Steve is also, and I think we both said that we have never seen anybody from the harbor master's office in the boat dropping off a dye tab for somebody coming to the mooring.
well, I know my son used to do it when he worked for the Marine Department for 2 or 3 years. He was the one handing them out.
Well,
helping out.
Well, it has
Yeah,
to, it can't be handing them out. It has to be, if we're gonna do a regulation, it has to be
Required.
given the staffing, giving enough staffing, it has to be somebody physically going onto the boat and dropping it in themselves, not trusting that the boater is gonna do it.
A year or two ago, speaking with one of the young guys that was driving the headhunter around, he said, "Oh yeah, we've been giving out dye tabs," and he said that they'd been doing it as well. But I just don't know how consistent it is. And I thought I remembered us talking about it as a regulatory requirement, but I just wasn't sure if it had made it into the plan anywhere.
I had Hunter come about twice this summer. They have never offered a dye tab or said they had to put a dye tab in the tank.
Who's headhunter?
That's
The name of the pump out boat.
That's
the
the-
I
500
didn't know they had a name.
Yeah. the-
Which
Okay.
is a
The
great
poop
service.
boat.
Makes sense.
That's a
Yeah.
great service. That's one thing that really works nicely, but I have not seen any evidence personally or, seeing, I mean, the obvious one would be, that, when a boat comes to a mooring, to a rental mooring for the night, that the harbor master swings by and
Here it
says,
is.
we'd like to put this in your tank.
We did talk about this in the water quality section. I'm looking at objective 4 recommendation 2. We did change
Okay.
it to be a requirement and exploring bylaw language.
Okay, then it probably does not need to be here. Thank you, Kristen.
Sure.
The word pump out is 2 words, by the way, not 1.
Okay.
Yeah, I already checked it. If anything, it's hyphenated, but actually at the moment, it's not even connected, period.
Okay, should we move on to recommendation 2? Anybody have anything to say on that one, or should we just move on?
Well, isn't that where we can sort of throw that thing in there about how many people are using the moorings and all that stuff?
On number 2?
Yeah, number 2, we're making number 3, and vis-a-vis what Emily was talking about, or how many people are using them and what the, was it full, not full, that kind of stuff?
I have
Put that
number
in
2 as
three.
being dealing with cruise ships.
Yeah, but then put in number 3, how many people are using these moorings, et cetera, basically what Emily was talking about.
Oh, you want a third recommendation?
Yeah, if that's what we want to keep track. Of.
Yeah, do we have, I don't know if we have carrying capacity anywhere else, but I can put it here. and double check if we have it anywhere else.
Okay.
Okay. Anything else under objective 1, or should we move on to objective 2?
Well,
I
isn't
don't-
carrying capacity the first recommendation up there? Isn't that already up above?
Yeah, but you didn't have any, how do you check it? How do you keep, what's the data? How do
Yeah,
you- Data,
I was suggesting, recommending that we have an annual accounting of how many people are actually using it, but I just, because I
Yeah.
saw Kim Wright carrying capacity again.
yeah, if you want to put it in one, but just somewhere in here where you can get it, quantify it.
Yep. Okay. All right. Objective 2, recommendation 1.
I don't understand how objective 2 is, how the language is phrased, supporting public small boat access.
Boat ramps,
Yeah, I got that, but public small boat access, public,
yeah.
private? Isn't it private small boat access?
Public
I
as
think
in a public.
the concept obviously is public
No, it's gonna be
access.
split here. Supporting a public access point for small boats. Or something like that. Public small boat doesn't make any sense. I've never seen it phrased that way.
How about public sites and facilities?
For small boat access to the harbors, yeah, but it's a public site for small boat access.
And you have nothing to say about the word supporting?
I don't know what else to use besides supporting. Or providing. Increase the number of sites and facilities providing public access for small boats to the harbor, yeah. Fine, providing instead of supporting, providing. That
I
makes
think this,
free.
I think this is addressing areas like Cathcart Road
Yeah,
and Monomoy where people have all their little dinghies
yeah,
on the beach. I think that's what this is getting at.
that's public sites for small boat access. It's just not phrased right. So is there anything else under objective 2? Under, I guess it's just one.
Well, I don't know whether this comes under it or not, but, I was poking around online, looking for anything having to do with Nantucket and, mooring, moorings for people coming as transient, coming from off island. And, you know, obviously Nantucket Moorings has a website and they have a thing for comments, but there was another website, had nothing to do with Nantucket Moorings. It just was sort of like moorings in New England, and there was a whole section on Nantucket. And one of them was talking about the fact that it was an absolute disaster down at the town pier for all the little dinghies, and people were saying they were having to climb over five
Yeah,
To
so,
get to
five
there,
dinghies to get to
yes.
the dock now.
okay, so Sheila Lucy has worked out,
Worked out, yeah.
regulations for that, which she is going to be bringing to SHAB. We will be then, you know, helping her tweak that and then making a recommendation to the select board in support of that, and there'll be a public hearing, so
Okay.
that's being taken care of.
Because there is chaos down there.
There was
Yeah.
also associated with that, the condition of the restrooms and the showers was absolutely. I mean, it was terrible. It's terrible. I don't know whether that comes into anything here, but whatever,
There's that word explore again.
whatever. Okay.
Can we do something with that word explore?
Steve Monk,
And just take explore and out and say pursue opportunities.
investigate.
Mhm.
Yeah, investigate or,
Yeah,
mean-
but take explore,
Well, objective number 3, I'm just looking
not
here.
there yet.
Oh, okay.
Can I
then
add,
we-
can I
yeah.
add to objective number 2 for a second?
Yeah, because I got a
Um,
problem with something here.
So one thing, Sheila and I have had recent conversations about the issues at the town pier. So that is, I second that she is actively working on resolving those dinghy issues. One thing that we're having, and this has been probably an issue now for about 5 years, is we're struggling to figure out whether we actually need more dinghy storage or we just need everybody to, it's not dinghies, right, all the time. It's a lot of kayaks, paddleboards, things like that. But we can't, and I think what we're doing is we're struggling a little bit to manage them effectively. So what we're seeing a lot of is caretakers bringing down like 6 kayaks for a summer, right? And putting them on a dinghy rack, and then there they sit. So I think we're trying to figure out if there's a more effective way to manage the storage, in addition to knowing that we might need more. We've explored like our sticker programs. We've really done quite a bit of soul searching about this and haven't come up with anything that we love yet. But I would say that actually there's one of the biggest issues here is management of the boats that are there too. It's probably unlikely that everybody on Nantucket will be able to drop off their light watercraft and will be able to provide dinghy storage for it for the whole summer.
A couple of other things in here. Downtown is one word with no capital T in the middle of it.
Yeah, I know that I went through and tried to capitalize all towns, and it then I did a find and replace. So
And then it's after it. The other thing is, just obviously explore and get that out. At the following sites and others with potential for new boat landings, launch ramps, dinghy storage, da, 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 da. The land, you've got the land bank listed here. Rachel knows this. They have a substantial piece of property right on the creeks in Mattocket. So if you're gonna mention the one on Pulpus Harbor, you need to mention the one in Mattocket.
mhm.
So add that, because everybody's looking at that.
Okay.
Is there any more specific location on Mattocket that we could
Well,
cite?
Rachel would know, it's either Washington or Tennessee. I can't remember which one. I think it's Tennessee, isn't it, Rachel?
Well, I'm
Okay.
trying to figure out which one you're talking about. Are you talking about, yeah, it's
We got-
Tennessee if you're talking about, the one that accesses Hither Creek,
Yeah, that one,
Tennessee.
just down from the public landing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
But it's direct access to Hither Creek, and it's nice access, actually. Okay, anything else in that one, guys? You're on to 3 already.
Well, 3 gets us back to the DITAB thing, I think. It says, objective number 3, ensure natural resources are protected from the impact of boating activities.
Yep.
I think there are other impacts listed there too.
Yeah,
There
That
are.
are not related to those
propeller impacts, there's all kinds of stuff.
mooring chains.
Yeah,
anchors.
draggers.
It's a little bit more comprehensive than just
Yeah.
that tabs.
And that's just one of them.
Because you get moorings that drag, you get all kinds of stuff.
All right. Anything, should we just say 1 through 4? Any comments?
Where is one? Mhm. Well, you've got a 1. I don't, there's a 2. I got it. Three.
One of the things I'll point out is mixed in with all of this is the moorings, and right now moorings are all mushrooms. There are a couple of helixes. They only did helix for a year or 2,
Yeah,
maybe 25 years ago, and then they stopped it. So there still are a couple of helixes in the harbor. But everything else is a mushroom which gets pulled at the end of the season.
yeah, and they drag everything
But-
with it.
Well, but the point is that there is, you know, there is the possibility that you could go back to helixes, but if you have helixes, scallopers are not gonna be able to drag there.
Well, they
Sorry.
will if you put the Glowacki cap on the bottom, on the tackle on the bottom. On the part that's sticking up, that metal dome. And then if you can convince people to use the Dormore, the inverted pyramid concrete moorings. I guess they use them in the vineyard a lot.
Well, the problem with the vineyard is that the vineyard uses the concrete blocks, but those obviously don't get pulled every
No, they
year.
stay there.
And the bales, the things that are set in the concrete, eventually fail. And I think every winter, the
Yeah.
vineyard has at least
Yeah.
one boat that breaks free. Cause they have a lot more boats on moorings all winter long. And they just break free because they claim that they have divers that go down every year and check them, but it's not the same as pulling a mushroom out and ensuring the chain and the shackles and everything are okay. But I just throw this out that is something that in the future may be, with technology, may be more of an option.
And Sheila will always say that she thinks that the helixes are great, but, and that the company says that, you screw them in and then they're easily screwed out, but she would always say that it's impossible to unscrew them and take them out every year. So that was a sticking point for her.
I don't know who takes those out.
She's also concerned just about having dredges get hung up on them for sure, but we've been
Yeah.
experimenting with some alternative mooring gear using a pyramid anchor and some sort of bungee and floats to on our boat to see if it holds and if she feels like it's safe enough to recommend for other vessels that prevents the scour. So she's
Well, that's-
definitely into experimenting with new gear and alternative moorings in certain areas.
Well, I think that we should have that in here more specifically. I hate that word explore or investigate alternative mooring.
I think it could just be pursue transitioning moorings to
Yeah,
somehow more eelgrass
consider
friendly
it.
or
Consider,
something in here.
Yeah.
I like the word pursue better because that means they have to do something. But you understand where we're going with this, right?
Yep, I got it.
Okay. Anything else in that 1 to 4? Or you go on to objective 4?
well, recommendation number 1 goes directly to what's gonna be required in about 2 years with Massachusetts. Massachusetts, the state government has passed a regulation, a law, I don't know what you call it, where anybody who operates a boat with a motor has to get licensed.
And you
And
wanna
it's like
improve our-
anybody.
You want to improve harbor safety now?
So that's, I mean, so it's talking about here, education materials and all the rest of this, but we may want to just make reference to the fact that we were aware that this, this
Regulation.
ruling or regulation is in effect and has to, everybody, and I think it's like 2 years from now, has to have
Voting safety?
a little certificate that they've passed a course.
Yeah.
If the boat that they are operating has a motor on it.
Even a little rubber dinghy that has a 1-2 horsepower on it like that.
I don't know whether there's a
It's probably
cutoff.
gonna be at least a 10 horsepower.
Well, I don't know, but you guys, Kim and Kristen, you guys ought to be probably aware of that yourselves, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. Mhm.
Can you imagine?
Yeah. All right, buddy. Where's your license?
So that
10-year-old
is
in
gonna
an
be
inflatable
required
custodian
education.
that's
It's
this
not,
big,
it's not voluntary.
And that's
Yep.
to actually get to your boat.
Right.
Yeah, no, you might want to flesh that out and find out if that's coming and what the language is.
Sure. Mhm.
Yep, we can do that.
Yeah. Anything on number 2?
Oh, so that would be more under improve harbor safety. Are we on to objective 4?
Oh, I thought we finished objective. I thought we're on the.
We're on 4.
Oh, I thought we're on objective 4. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, I'm sorry.
All that discussion was about objective 4.
Yep,
Right.
okay,
That's harbor, that's boating safety.
yep. Okay,
Should you put down improve boating and harbor safety? Or just harbor?
Well, I
safety?
think the fact that everybody who is operating a motorized vessel is going to have to take a course or pass a course.
Well, above a certain
Yeah.
horsepower.
yep, we could put boating and harbor safety. Okay, anything else on this? Okay, it looks like no one else had specific comments. although there are a lot of recommendations here. Steve wanted to talk about a number of these, but he's not here.
On which one?
Just under objective 4,
Which one did he want to talk about?
a number of them, but he's not here.
Well, a lot of these recommendations on objective 4 involve the harbor master, so we really need to hear from her, I think, right?
She got a copy of this, right?
Yep,
Mhm.
she got a copy. She hasn't responded.
I have to make sure she reads it.
Meetings. But I mean, we'll make sure she does review all of this and it makes sense.
Anything else in there? Got a yellow.
Especially as she's called out a number of times. It's a responsible party.
All through this section, she's in every one of them.
Okay, anything else on objective 4, or mostly we need to just run these by Sheila?
Yeah,
Okay. Goal 2. Objective 1.
sure, again,
Okay, we'll just make sure that we get all of them. Okay, anything on, I don't have any specific comments from people.
thing on that one.
Well, I guess my only thought, under objective 1 is the fact that, and I don't know which recommendation you put it in, but I've had now 3 instances where I've been told by Nantucket Moorings, I have to get off my mooring because of the storm.
Mhm.
And it's only because at the very last minute, in each of those cases, there was an available slip at the boat basin.
Yeah.
But, Karsten Rainamo called me up the last time we had a hurricane, which was about 2 years ago, and said that I had to go to the Cape. And of course, all of the boatyards in the Cape were completely filled.
Well, a lot of people did go to the Cape from,
Well, they had gone the week before.
yeah, they knew.
And so I think that, I think the reason he's saying that is because he has an insurance policy with his carrier that says, they have to require people to be off the mooring.
Mhm.
I mean, it's sort of a problem with no real solution, other than the fact that, Eric Finger was working, 12-hour days pulling boats
Well,
with a travel lift.
yeah, one of the times back in the day, when my ex-husband, my son's father, was managing the shipyard, we had a storm come in the 80s that we knew was gonna be bad. It wasn't gonna miss us. We snapped him out of Children's Beach and threw him up on the grass. They were taking him out as fast as they could get him out of the water, and we put him up on the grass by the concession. And had to have been 20 or 30 boats over there. That's what they do.
Yeah, that was, one of my boats was there, but if you have a boat that's 34 feet long and draws 5 feet,
Then you gotta go to the travel lift. And then they were putting them on blocks across the street, same
Exactly.
storm. Because Mark
Exactly.
had to
So, I
pull
mean,
them out down there.
if that's our plan, I guess that's our plan, but I mean, it was
Not a good
it
plan.
was a mess.
Then we had to put them all back in the water.
Okay,
I mean, if there was a second travel lift somewhere, that would have been that would have certainly been helpful.
yeah, do we say anything about, or have we talked about a different travel lift?
There isn't anywhere right now to put that thing down there.
Do we want to put that in?
I couldn't even imagine where it would go.
Well, that's not
They've
for
got
us
one,
to,
obviously.
that's not for us to decide now.
Connecticut, they've got one, but
No, but I mean, that's not for us to debate now. Do we want to put something in
We
there?
should put something in there that keeps it open,
I mean,
to
I
the best,
think, I'm sorry, Peter. I'm sorry.
to the best, something that's like
An alternative,
to the best of the town's ability, seek out
alternatives,
alternative locations for travel lists.
or alternative locations from removing boats safely, which could include another travel lift.
Because if it's not in the plan, then people are,
Don't think about it.
they won't think about it unless they notice a glaring hole and go, how come they didn't put that in the plan?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so at least if it's in the plan, even though it's a long shot that we're gonna find the ideal situation, at least it's there. So at least it's there.
Yeah,
Yeah, Carson's solution to me was to go to New Bedford, but they'd already closed the doors.
you know, close the gates.
Yeah.
Pulpus Harbor.
Yeah,
Mhm.
protect it. I don't know if he can get into Pocus Harbor.
5 feet.
Yeah, you can't get in there.
Have people ever gone up like it during a nor'easter and put their boats very close to Cascade Woods right there? Because
Up at
that's
Wauwinet?
sheltered.
Okay. So I got something, I'll write something in there. Anything else under objective one?
You realize that some of the worst storms we ever had were not named storms?
Mhm.
The,
Okay.
the
Just
perfect.
How
storm
about
was no
just
storm
develop a
here.
storm mitigation plan?
Yeah, because I'll tell you another one, when Sandy came up, we didn't get much damage from Sandy. It was, they had to expand the FEMA plan.
Mm.
Because the storm that we got the middle of the following week after Sandy was worse here than Sandy.
Yep.
Missed us. So named storm really isn't where Nantucket has the major problem, because we
Yeah.
don't get to the named storms. We get a gale, we get a nor'easter that's got some fluffy name. But we get stuff here that has nothing with a name.
Yep. Okay. Can include that. Anything else in this section?
What would we do for wave attenuation in Mattocket Harbor? That the boats can still get over.
Well, I think you have to design and put it somewhere where you can navigate around it.
Yeah,
It's
it'd be like,
difficult to navigate into the harbor in the first place.
but it might be some sort of similar thing like we have at Pulpus Harbor, that is the bulkhead that prevents the sand from filling in that part of the harbor. It might be something in a place that would, or it might be a reef.
Some sort of baffle. I mean, we had talked about that on the South Shore when we were on the planning commission.
Something that we don't know what it is yet, but
We have to do wave research and everything else. That's what they had that thing up there in Mattocket for.
Joe Farrell,
Yeah, Joe wasn't gonna sink a battleship here, but he had the concrete baffles he was gonna sink out there. Same thing in Wisconsin. Okay. Determine how best to move forward with.
So I see
considering the
objective.
harbor master.
Objective number 2 talks about haul out capacity.
I'm not there yet.
I thought we were.
No, I'm back at determine how best to move forward with construction of the new harbor master building. Forget that. Move forward. Period. With constructing the new harbor master building. Not determine how best, move forward. Don't give them all these out words. That's a concrete recommendation. Don't give them the determined how best crap. Move forward. They gotta go to CapCon to get that money. I think they already gave them some
take
for
steps.
the architectural part of it.
Our meeting shot them down last time.
Yeah, well, move forward. Don't determine how best, move forward. Standards with design, construction, dog soil, repair. Well, we got a pure moratorium in the harbor, don't we?
Yeah,
Yes, there's the island perimeter restriction through zone.
Yeah, then why is recommendation 6 have to be there? Do we have a moratorium in Mattocket Harbor too?
Yeah, it's island one.
All right, then why number 6 doesn't need to be there, does it? Because we're only dealing with the harbors.
I guess it would just be applicable for like commercial or governmental piers, but, or existing that were being reconstructed, but.
We got some in Pond, we got some in Long Pond.
no, I think it's important to keep it in there because there's people who always get ideas that, you know, keeps it current.
I think so too.
I mean, I'll bring it up again, you know, the guy that tried to build a thing at Shimmer Pond Road, and there was a hint of a remnant of a, you know,
Something.
pier that was there, but it was submerged, and he used that to say that it was grandfathered because he could repair it, and he pretty much got shut down, but,
Yeah.
you know, there could be other things that people could come up with, and and then there was a guy up in Mattocket, 8284 Walwinet 8284.
Yeah.
Walwinet Road, and he knew somebody with the state, and he got that thing put in, and so
Yeah,
there's precedent of people really pushing the bounds, so we should probably, you know, keep the strength in there.
when that last sentence refer to coastal resilience. C. Section for more details, coastal resiliency, that should be capitalized because it's a specific section. Which is coming up next.
For what you would like me to change for recommendation 6, put existing somewhere, I lost the train.
Standards for the town, for the docks and roads, repairs, and that's it. No, I think Peter just said leave it alone,
Just leave it.
except that you have to capitalize coastal resilience. C, because that's a specific section,
Okay,
which is next.
all right, objective 2, anything for that?
Well, we've just been talking about that.
Well, that was,
That's what we were talking
objective
about.
2 is talking about capacity of haul out, so
Get them out.
maybe the comments we were making, you could put them in there. About the second travel lift or whatever.
Yep. Okay,
Okay.
That's in the recommendation.
yep. Okay. All right, can we move on to coastal resiliency? We got about 10 minutes left.
Okay.
All right, anything for recommendation 1? I have Phil had a comment.
Boy, that was so long ago.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have anything for 1.
Right now, I don't have anything up until 4. Are you guys okay moving on to number 4?
This is coastal resilience,
Yeah.
Mhm.
and you sent us this?
I have it.
Okay, so the Coastal Resilience Advisory Committee will have its, we'll have a meeting next week.
Okay,
So I'll take that and make an agenda item out of it and tell people to look at it one last time.
Yep.
And now, then I'll bring back whatever comments people have.
Does Holly go to your meetings?
Holly Backus,
Yeah,
only when we asked her to.
I need to send this to Holly.
yeah, okay. Oops, no, lost it. Okay, just thinking of what's a good version for you to send to them, because this is a little messy.
Send me what you think is the best.
I'm thinking, I can clean this version up and then just send it to you as a
Yeah,
clean version.
sure, I would say by Wednesday, because
Okay.
Leah will be posting the agenda on Thursday.
Okay. All right.
Can you send it to me also, and I'll send it to Holly?
Sure. All right.
Anything but Ray's Easy Street.
Okay. So I guess we don't have to go into too much depth on these recommendations then. Aside from recommendation 4, talking about environmental justice. I just have that Phil had a comment.
I don't really.
Okay. Objective 2. Somebody made a comment, should there be a general education recommendation for the whole coastal resiliency section?
Oh, boy.
Probably.
Education should be in every single section in here.
Right.
If we can't get the word out to these people and teach them and train them and make them aware of stuff, we can sit here for the next, till the cows come home, and it's not gonna make any damn difference if people don't get educated.
Right, although I need to look back at the recommendation. I mean, this recommendation convene regular intercommittee meetings. That's not really, public education. So I need to look back and just see if it really applies to all the sections. Which I can do.
Cause we obviously gotta meet with the boatyards, we gotta meet with the yacht clubs,
Mhm.
people that are directly affected, Grand Point in particular.
Okay, but I can look into that and just see if it's relevant to all the different objectives. Okay, Tara had a comment on recommendation 4. That's
Now, using the word coastal resilience or coastal resiliency, this is getting schizophrenic.
I think it's coastal, it should be coastal resilience, right?
Yes.
Okay, because you've got Ys on some of them you don't
Because we
have.
started, we, as a committee, we started out as the Coastal Resiliency
See,
Committee, we
that's what I
changed it.
thought.
We
Okay.
changed it to
All
coastal
right,
resilience.
so you gotta track that all through here because it's going back and forth.
Yep.
Especially in this one, you've got it on here twice.
Okay, objective 3. Anything important to talk about? I'm not sure where this came from. If these specific recommendations are being drawn from the CRP, it might be helpful to provide some high-level summary.
If somebody, a layperson was reading that sentence, they're not gonna have a clue what you're talking about.
Which sentence?
The objective 3. What infrastructure? What kinds of infrastructure? What hazards? I mean.
Well, I
Maybe-
think later on we talk about what infrastructure and hazards.
I don't think we should. I think we should give the general public more credit than that, because this is something that's talked about a lot, and we had the Francis Street Beach, Coastal Resilience Project forums, we had one for Easy Street. I think that people aren't that out of it. And there's gonna be more and more coming in people's faces, so I think we should leave it as is. If they wanna know what it is, they'll ask.
Yep. And we do, yeah, and later on we do we get into that more. Okay. Anything else for objective 3? Okay. objective 4.
I'm stuck on recommendation 2. Under objective 3.
Mhm.
Not happening. Where did these recommendations under 2 come from?
I believe they came from the coastal resilience plan.
You're gonna raise Mattocket Road?
Yeah,
Portions.
have you ever gone over First Bridge?
Oh, I've been out there.
Right, so can you imagine when the water comes through the ditch and raises everything, or when the ocean breaks through down at the beach? They'll most likely go back to being bridges.
Not in our lifetime.
No, in the same lifetime that they're building the pier down at Jetty's Beach.
Yeah, not in my lifetime.
Well, that's why we look forward. And those bullets in there came from us in our joint meeting, so.
Mhm. Yep, okay. We're pretty close to the end here. I think coastal resilience is the last section, I believe. Oh, no, there's one more. But we're close to the end. We have 3 minutes left. Let's see, where were we just talking about recommendation 2? So objective 4, we could end on objective 4, just stop here. And then we just need to get through, honestly, only 4 more pages. So we're in pretty good shape in terms of getting through this. And we might have more comments from the coastal resilience team after they take a look at this.
As well as Sheila.
Yeah, as well as
As
Sheila.
well as Sheila.
And Sheila. I don't know if it helps for somebody else to send it to Sheila.
I can, Sheila.
Okay.
You can send it. to
So-
me.
This is one of her, well,
I know it
it's
is.
hard to say
but we have
what
to do
time
it.
of year is Sheila's slow part, but this is definitely crunch time for her.
Yeah.
So,
But if we give it to her and say, look, we don't want to do anything without you, she'll do it.
right,
She'll do it.
right.
Okay.
You
So
could even-
I'll forward the current version right now to you, Linda, and
Yeah, and I'll send it to Sheila.
You know, you might even just call her.
I might even just go down there.
Yeah,
I'm down in that section all the time. Okay,
so for our next meeting, 2 weeks, and we should finish this by then. Let's see, 2 weeks from now is the 12th. So does that work for people?
so I have a colonoscopy that day, but there's other reasons I can't do it that day, so it should be fine.
May 12th,
Yeah, May 12th.
okay.
Okay.
Granddaughter's birthday.
All right.
So our next crack meeting is gonna be. Next crack meeting is gonna be. It's gonna be the 13th of May.
Hmm.
So it's a ways out. But what I can do is once you send what you're gonna send to me,
Yep.
Kimberly, then I can tell Leah ahead of our agenda meeting, which will be next week. So maybe she can get it out to them before we even have it on the agenda.
Yep.
So they have plenty of time.
Digest.
And I'm guessing there won't be a whole lot of changes, so, but still, it's us doing our due diligence.
Yeah. Interesting, have to do it. Anything else from anybody, Phil?
Nope.
Okay, somebody want to make a motion to adjourn at 2:30 sharp?
Nice.
Oh, second,
Okay, Phil made the motion, Peter seconded. All those in favor, Peter,
all right,
Phil,
Aye.
Rachel,
Aye.
Emily,
Aye.
and myself. I thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
We're getting
Bye.
there.